Welcome back to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. We're so glad you joined us today. So, what if you happen to be that person or you know somebody that built a business that works, just not the way it was supposed to? The revenues there are almost close to it, but so are the 60-hour plus work weeks, the team drama, the cash flow anxiety, the nagging feeling that you're solving the same problems on repeat. Something is structurally wrong and working harder isn't fixing it. Here's what our next guest has learned after 30 years and 450 plus businesses. Most owners are solving the right problems in the wrong order. They pour energy into one foundation when the real constraint and problem is somewhere else entirely. Fix the wrong thing first and you're building on quicksand. That's why he created P3 Strategy. It identifies which of your three business foundations, people, processes, or profits, need attention first, and then gives you the structure to fix them in the right order. Some of his clients have actually doubled their revenue. One did so and cut his hours in half within 18 months. Another reduced team turnover, get this, from 80% to 12% and added $180,000 in annual profit. The difference wasn't harder work, it was fixing the right foundation first. The results that every owner that he has worked with include less chaos, more clarity, more profit, and more of the life they started this business for in the first place. I want to welcome David C. Olcott, founder and CEO of Samurai Success, Inc., to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. David, dude, it is so good to have you on the show, and we're going to have a great conversation because, man, I didn't even tell the best part of your introduction. I'm saving that for the first question. Okay. So, man, thank you for being here and taking the time out. And we're both in Colorado. We're both sweating parts of our anatomy off because it's been so hot and dry here and very little rain. So I'm actually glad to be in the studio in air conditioning.
Me too, sir. It's good to be with you, Pat. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, here we go. We're going to rock and roll. This is going to be fun. Here's the Paul Harvey, and for people that don't know who Paul Harvey was, Google it. Here's the Paul Harvey, kind of the rest of the story that I didn't throw in at the very beginning. You were born and raised in the Florida Keys and wanted to be an FBI profiler, and growing up, you probably spent more time in or under the water than you did on land, being down there in the Keys, and had this dream maybe to be an FBI profiler, but you got sidetracked into politics and real estate. And by the age of 24 years old, you were living the outside life of quote unquote success, but were miserable. And then you heard Tony Robbins speak and went to work with him. So here's my first question. 24 in the Keys, living the life and success, why miserable?
Wow. Okay. Well, we're going to start off here deep.
Yeah.
Deep.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it. So I'm working in real estate. I'm literally working with the top producer in the world when it comes to real estate. We sold more real estate than any one group or individual at that time. Now, remember, this is 37 years ago kind of stuff. Multi-million-dollar sales in real estate was not the norm like it is today. Teams, groups, just $62 million in residential real estate was a world record at that time. Today, they do hundreds of millions of dollars kind of stuff, but it's team dynamics. It's a totally different game. But at the time, it was so impressive that we were actually traveling around the country with a guy named Brian Ferry talking about this idea of how to build real estate, how to build teams. Carlos was up on stage talking about the sales side. My job was the structural process team dynamic to support the sales guy, the lead generation, right? The buyer side. So here I was, we were doing all these amazing things. We were on stage, we were getting all this attention. We were getting all this How did you do it? I want to be you. And it felt good. To be honest with you, at 24 years old, my ego is like, just sucking it in. Now, let me give you the frame of reference to where I've come from. We're working in Miami real estate. Star Island is our centerpiece of the chessboard, if you will. Everybody's buying on Star Island. We sell to Sylvester Stallone, Madonna, Prince rents from us. I mean, the celebrities are all coming to Miami at this time. I had just been in politics. I knew the field really well. Living the life. I'm driving a 560 SL Mercedes on Miami Beach, convertible, just the sun, the money, you think that was the dream. And the reason why I was so miserable is because I knew I was living a lie.
Wow. So, Tony Robbins, how did you go from being on the big stage to sitting in the audience? Why Tony Robbins?
Mike Ferry, Palm Springs Desert. I forget what year it was. We had just come off stage. Now there's 5,000 people in the room. These are top end real estate agents across the planet are in this room to listen to my boss at the time. I was his business manager. We get up there. I'm 24 years old. We rock the stage. We're on there for an hour. I feel so good. Carlos feels so good. We walk back on stage, off stage, behind the curtain as you do, kind of stuff. And the crowd was going crazy, standing ovation, kind of thing for us. We walk off stage. I'm feeling really proud of myself. And I don't know, within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the entire energy of the place shifts. I mean, the place is going bonkers, Pat. I mean, bonkers. Like, what is happening? Like a rock star just literally walked on stage. Celebrity just walked on. I was like, what is happening? So I peer through the curtain and they're standing there. There's all 6'7", 300 pounds of them kind of stuff. He's a big presence, and I'd never met the guy. I'd never seen his book. I'd never listened to any of his tape. I'd never heard his name before.
Wow.
And here is this guy getting people who are making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in Armani suits, jumping around like kids. Like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
In that moment, I realized, oh my God, there's a whole new level of human performance I don't know about. And that was so intriguing to me. So I was like, something's got to happen. So I'm living this depressed life, if you will, making all this money. I should not be depressed, Pat. That's my whole point. You're a victim, Dave. You're 20 years old, first world problems. All agree with you. I agree totally. I should not have been there, but I was there. I was looking for something deeper is what I was living. I was living a lie. I was living this surface-oriented life where most people are going to be happy with this. I wanted to be here. I wanted to live in the depth. Right? In the ocean. I wanted to dive deep and find out how this place really works. I mean, how do humans really work? How does this physical plane really work? And what's this spiritual connection that's all about this?
Yeah.
And so when I went on this journey with Tony, I started that journey. But that wasn't the end of it. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's ever going to end because my next mentor was a guy named Neil Donald Walsh who wrote a book called Conversations with God. And that was a game changer for me. So I was learning all this physical stuff about how to be in my ego, how to make money, how to build relationships, how to get the things and material stuff. But I was missing the spiritual connection with the Father, with my faith and my belief systems. And that was the missing part. That was the big lie. And I found that I was like, I want to be in service, and I want to be in service to people. I want to understand how people really work so I can help them understand how they work. And that's where this metaphor comes through of this book that I read when I was in sales called Samurai Selling. And the word samurai, loosely translated, means in service of others. Mm-hmm. So that's become my metaphor for my life. Samurai Success is the name of our company. So we're literally in service of your success. That's what we do. But we have to study how success works in order to help people get to that place. So from Tony to Neil Donald Walsh and the stuff that I was reading, I found that there was a new path that I didn't always have to listen to my ego to be successful. As a matter of fact, listening to my ego gave me success without fulfillment. Listening to my soul brought both of those things together. Fulfillment and success all at once. And I was so happy to find that and integrate that into my life.
Man, I'm writing notes. I'm not looking down because I'm ignoring you. I'm like, holy crap! I'm going to run out of space. Is one? I don't know if I should do this as a question or just make it as a flat out statement. is one of the things that's key to your processes in identifying like the three P's of what needs to be fixed first. Actually, this is kind of two questions in one. Is we throw around the word success, and then who's the guy that said begin with the end in mind? Yeah, okay, yeah. And so begin with the end in mind, and people go, well, the end in mind is I want to be successful. And then we just skip over that conversation with people, or even with yourself, of what do you mean by success? Define what that means to you, because if I'm going to be your mentor, your coach, and you're an entrepreneur, and I just presume, hey, you know what, you want to build a multi-million-dollar or more business, have an exit strategy, all that kind of stuff, so you can live the life and provide for your family the way you want to. And I, as the coach, the mentor, the advisor, just assume that, and I'm completely off base because that may not be your definition of success. So how do you develop the relationship with people to have those kind of no BS conversations so that you can really be the most help to them that they need? What's that look like in your world?
So one of the premises that we work off here at Samurai Success is not to make assumptions, right? So anytime that we're working with a client, we think we know where we're going, we stop doing that. We just simply step back and ask the question, hey, where is it you really want to go? And most of the time, Pat, I'll be honest with you, most people aren't really as clear as they'd like to be around that situation. Mm-hmm. So there's two vectors that you have to consider when you're coaching, which is what Newton told us, that says if you know one step, you know the next step, then you can draw a line between the two of them, you know the most effective and efficient way to get there. Okay, so you got to have two vectors though. The first vector is you got to know where you're starting from, and you got to know where you're going to end up. Those two things, by the way, that desired situation, we call it, can change, but you have to reach it over a certain period of time, or at least get really close to it before you change it again. Mm-hmm. Because the step that I'm doing here is this thing called the gap. There's where you are currently located, where you want to go, and the space between those is the gap. So your resource plan or coaching or mindset, skill set, tool set that you want to develop has to go from where you're located to where you actually want to end up. Getting that clarity is a process that we take all of our clients for. So they're so committed, because the universe rewards congruency and commitment. And I really want to state that really dramatically, Pat, on this show, because people don't realize how important commitment is. We talk commitment, we say commitment. I'm talking about truly being committed is what creates a frequency of coherence. And that becomes your focal point of how you attract things in your life. So all this stuff is connected to commitment. And you know when you're really committed, right? You can lie to yourself, you can lie to other people, but you cannot lie to the universe. So when you're committed, what does that look like? That means who you say you are, your belief about you, and the actions that you take are so congruent with each other that they create consistency, congruence, and coherence, which in itself is a frequency of vibrational state that attracts things to you. Whenever you say you're a person, right, and then you don't do the things that are congruent with that, you create consistent inconsistencies, which creates a frequency which attracts things to you. So either way, it's going to attract things to you. But if you know the formula, then you get to be successful with it.
And you know what? Some people, this is the first word that comes to mind, because some people will, kind of glaze over when we start talking about, frequency and congruence, and those are invisible. That's what conjures up is, well, I can't see it, but we will readily go, hey, karma is a bitch. You know what I'm saying? And karma is a form of frequency, I think, and congruence. You know, and what John Maxwell calls it the law of reciprocity,
Yeah.
and all sorts of other things. And I'm writing some more notes down. And I love how you talk about commitment, congruency, and who you say you are and what you're doing, type deal. And and I'm not big on acronyms. I have a few, but the one that I really like to use, I think is right in line with your insights and perceptions, is people will say, "Well, I really care about," and then fill in the blank. You have faith, family, you have friends in that order, kind of deal. And I really care about my faith. I really care about my family. I care about my job. I care about you, all that. And I go, well, what's care mean to you? Mm. Well, it's just a word. I really care. And I go, well, if you really care about something, and here's my acronym, that means you are willing and actually do commit all resources and energy to whatever it is. Beautiful. And so that when I say have these no BS conversations, like if you have that conversation with a potential client and you ask them, well, what are your 3 top priorities? Oh man, faith, family, friends. Yeah. Oh, so job's number 4? Yeah. How many hours a week are you working? How many dinners are you sitting down with your family during a week, and how much free fun time are you spending with your kids? And that's that kind of no BS conversation, and that's difficult for a lot of people to do, and a lot of people would rather try and, because you were raised this way and I was raised this way. If you want it done right, do it yourself. And they get this mindset of, okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to go work on that. And so I know you have, and here's like the most sought after 4-letter word in the English dictionary, and it begins with an F. Not that word. The word is free.
And, thank you for coming.
Yeah, man. Don't go there, man. Get your mind out of the gutter. So I know you have it's short, it's 3-minute diagnostic thing that people that are going, yeah, man, I hear what this guy's saying, and I would really like to fill in the blank, but I'm just not sure. Talk a little bit about what that diagnostic tool is that you have online that people can jump on and actually see kind of where they're starting from. Just talk about it. What's the diagnostic tool all about?
This brings us back to your initial question around this thing called success and how do you define it, right? Mm-hmm. So when you sit down with clients and you don't make those assumptions, you ask those questions, you're going to find that most people aren't really clear about what success is. Well, I will tell you that I've literally asked that question with all the coaching years that we've done, literally millions of times. And not one time, Pat, not once. And I have a pretty damn good memory. Not one of those people who I've ever asked that question has ever said the same thing, ever. So success isn't a definable thing as a generalization. It's much more specific. But in order for something to be successful, it does have one component, one characteristic that has to be there. It's essential that if it doesn't have that, it cannot be called success. That one element, that one essential is called duplicatability.
Okay.
If I do something successful one time, what's that called? Luck.
Yeah.
One time, one hit wonder, whatever it is, right? If I do it one time. So I have to do it at least twice. That's duplication. I have to be able to, if I can repeat it, that's what we call successful people. part of the PQ'd model, the very second part of this, not the first part, but the second part, is your ability to duplicate things. Your ability to duplicate things means you have to have a recipe or a blueprint for success, something that can be repeatable, something written down. It cannot be located in your head. Because entrepreneurs are like, oh no, Dave, I got that all stored in my head. Do you know what your brain does really, really well, Pat? It deletes, it distorts, and it generalizes. And if you keep that stuff in your head, you're going to delete stuff. How many times have you done this? I know I have had this brilliant idea. You talk about it for 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever, and then it's gone. It's like, where the hell did that go?
Yeah.
And because you forgot it.
Yeah. I call that old timers disease. That's what I call it. Yeah. But go ahead.
So that duplication is such a big part of the EQ model, which is the second part of that, which is the design work. So if you really, and there's this classic cliche that entrepreneurs we use all the time in our things, and we've been promoted this, we've been sold this from my industry, that says you've got to be able to duplicate yourself. But I cannot tell you, working with 450 businesses, 50,000 people, what a disaster it is to duplicate the CEO of any business. It's an absolute disaster. And the reason for that is because a true entrepreneur does one thing. It goes in the marketplace, it finds a problem, and it designs a solution for that one problem in the marketplace. That's the role of the CEO. Once that solution is there, the CEO has to step back out of that role, because if not, they continue to add solution to a problem that doesn't exist. This is also known as chaos. They're constantly adding ideas. They're constantly doing innovation. And the system doesn't need it. The system needs to get to a level of sustainability that it's predictable. CEOs and innovators, right, are creating chaos along the way. You actually need to pull them out of the business. What do you need to replace them with is structure, systems, a management team, a leadership team, an executive team, and most importantly, a system that runs without that entrepreneur there.
Yeah, that's the one that particularly when I see CEOs typically are the visionaries, and they're the ones that can find every single rabbit hole within a 100-mile radius and go down it. And it's the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, who is that focused worker bee. And so I've been writing down again a ton of notes. I just want to divert just a little bit, because a lot of people misconstrue management and leadership, and they're two different. Because you said, you need a management team and you need a leadership team, and a lot of people go, well, that's the same thing. And in reality, at least my experience, it's not. In your experience, when you say you need a management team, what's that consist of? What's that look like?
So once you have a business model that you know is being successful, kind of thing, right? You need to create that predictability with that sustainability. And that's what's so important about the management team. Management teams run systems. They do not manage people.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's exact. That was like, oh, this could go off the rails, because we haven't had any prepared questions. This is just a organic conversation, and I think that's one of the biggest things that, particularly people in leadership positions, so they think they are, is really, no, you're a good manager, you're a boss, but from a leadership standpoint, you're a fish out of water, and that chaos in the workplace creates a lot of tension and can degenerate into a toxic work environment. So management systems, processes, and a very, very what's the word I want to use? Bottom line oriented, maybe almost. versus leadership, which is to you, what does it mean to be a leader, or what define leadership?
So interestingly enough, we spend a lot less time on leadership strategies within our system because what management and executive team members don't realize is their actions are leadership. Don't listen to what I'm saying,
Right.
listen to what I'm doing. That's your leadership team right there. It's already invoked. It's already part of the network. You don't have to develop it. You just have to, because that's your culture. Your culture is really your leadership team. Now, is there someone that should be a symbol of that? Absolutely. But that leadership team, that culture has to be connected to the grand vision. So not so much bottom line as opposed to top line when we're talking about leadership and executive team. Then when you do a management team, then you have to start working on top line connected to bottom line. And that's the process or structured system that your management team has to focus on. If that makes sense.
Oh, no, it does.
Okay.
In fact, I'm trademarking a concept, a framework that, and I've already submitted it. I'm just waiting the trademark. I don't know what's worse, the Postal Service or trademark, in getting things done. But the idea people confuse with is they have, especially visionaries, they have these great ideas and they know the end game. They know what it is that they want, whatever that might be. The breakdown and failure of a lot of entrepreneurial enterprises is the lack of measuring how you are progressing. So that it, like, I don't know, what is it, like 3 years, the average new business? At least I know in the hospitality restaurant arena that I think that's the life expectancy of a brand new restaurant or whatever. And it's like, man, time flies, and now we got to go out of business because we're a failure. And they act like they didn't see it coming. And they didn't see it coming because they had no processes to measure incremental little successes. So how do you get people to be, particularly visionaries, people who are excited about potential and have a disconnect with reality at times? How do you interact? How do you get those people to get that balance of vision, being a visionary, but also being realistic?
For the first 10 years, I used to yell and scream a lot, Pat. And I really mean that honestly, because I had to bring passion. I had to bring my expertise. I had to bring, 10 whatever years of, oh, look at me. I used to work for this person. I was this person. I had to bring all this reputation and brand. It was all me, enforcing you to do the behaviors that were going to make you successful. And I was literally being exhausted because I was spending so much time, energy convincing people. And finally, when I got them to break through and they won, they forgot how they got there. And they're like, oh, I can do this on my own. And I was like, well, son of a gun, where's this law of reciprocation, as Maxwell would talk about? It wasn't happening. And so it dawned on me that I was approaching this in a way that wasn't supporting exactly what you just talked about. The P-Cube model is exactly why we do things the way we do, because the center point of that is that design work. But the two bookends are what's called the psychology side, the mindset, and then there's the profit side. So when you hire Samurai Success, you don't hire one coach, you hire 3 coaches. And each one of those specializes in a different aspect of your business, collectively as a coaching system, though. So we sit down, we created a system, an algorithm that just simply says this: hey, business owner, if you are this person, your vision, and you do things this way, process work, this is the result you get. Because in our system, you have the people side, you have the process side, and you have the profit side. We have a whole team of people that takes all of your financial data and puts it into a way so that you can see collectively and measure through metrics management that of how your mindset and your design work is actually creating and manifesting in the physical realm. So you have real results. We're not messing around anymore. So
Yeah.
I have to use my 30 years experience and yelling and screaming anymore. I simply do this. Hey, brother, when you think this way and you do this thing, you get this result. When you think this way and you do this thing, you get this result. Which result do you like better? And it's no brainer. They go, well, I want to make more money faster. Then you got to have this mindset. You got to do these things and to be able to reach that. And that's when the real conflict happens, because most entrepreneurs, brother, want to be able to do it their way, not the way that really works. And that is why we have people in the front part, because that one segment I just talked about is called programming. Your programming determines how successful you're going to be this lifetime. And you're not going to get away from it. Not over the long term, not sustainably. Short term, yes. Willpower, motivation, discipline, inspiration, pain, all those things can have a quantum leap in your ability to perform and become successful. But it's not sustainable, because what makes things sustainable is your subconscious programming. We found ways to access that subconscious programming using your brain's physiology and this ability to have this neuroplasticity that it will learn new things if it finds a better way to do things. We introduce you to the opportunity for those easy or effortless things to do.
Yeah. And I can just picture exactly what you're saying. One of the hardest lessons, I think, in entrepreneurial startups and in the public sector that is so driven by civil service and inflexible processes and mindsets, is we so often we have a great plan and we have a great mission statement, we have a great vision statement, we have all the resources in the world, we have all the processes, we got a great employee handbook, and we have all these things, and then our bottleneck is we don't have the right people in the right positions. And I think that's why, for many people or many organizations, it's a people problem. I had a guest on, a neurodiverse individual, and he says businesses don't have a people problem, they have a process problem. And I could see where he was coming from and what he was talking about. But even if you have the greatest processes, if you have the wrong people in those positions to execute them, it's like pulling a pin on a grenade, and it's eventually it's going to blow up. So, how do you work with folks who? One of my favorite books, "Ego is the Enemy" by Ryan Holiday. How do you, in your Samurai Success Group, deal with? You go, okay, our client's ego is like bigger than anything you've ever come across. How do you deal with that? I mean, because I know there's listeners out there go, hey, you know what? My boss is the south end of a northbound horse, and I don't know how to deal with that. I'm mid management, and I have some great ideas, this, that, and the other thing. But the owner or the CEO or whatever is a jackass, and their ego won't allow me to share ideas like of the 3 Ps that would make our organization, even better than what it already is. So how do you deal with that toxic echelon?
Okay, let me just bottom line it for you. We don't.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, brother, is that if you really look around this physical plane, you can see that if we have 2 sources of knowledge base solutions, right? Because that's what CEOs think we do. We solve problems. Well, we've got 2 sources to be able to work from. We got our ego to work from, and we've got our soul to work from. In our businesses in America, especially, we have kind of relinquished the soul and really captured the ego. And you can see a lot of the ego is what's created a lot of the solution and problems and chaos in our business model. If we're going to do something different, we got to start introducing our soul back into this. Mm-hmm. And the way to do that is really actually simple. is start realizing you're really being in service of your customers, being in service of your clients, being in service of the marketplace. Because my boss as a CEO of this company is not my employees. It's not my customers. My customers are not the ones who are going to tell me what I need to do, because my answer and solution is to the marketplace, a grouping of customers, not one individual customer. It's the grouping. So large numbers have a problem. I got to come up with a solution to that. Well, if I'm really going to solve things as we move into the next level of chaos, I will tell you, there is a realm in the spiritual term called the realm of pure potentiality, where all solutions exist. Pat, if I can connect to my soul and get my ego out of the way, I can literally have access to real solutions that already exist in this realm of pure potentiality. Quantum mechanics lets us know this place actually exists. In the realm of the Big Bang, where things used to be a singularity and then everything expanded, everything used to be connected. So now that it's just expanded, it's still connected. We just can't see it as well because our programming doesn't allow us to see that. I've been able to reprogram my brain to look for those opportunities, to see those opportunities where other people don't see it. And that's what we teach our clients. So as an entrepreneur, you walk into a room and no one else sees the opportunity. My brain can't help but see the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that cannot come from the ego. The ego would not sustain that. And so once you understand that and you really want to be successful as we move into the next millennium, the soul connection is going to be your incredible part of this. And the ones who don't, they'll be gone. It won't matter. The ones that do, and really this is your time, there's a rebalancing of these two sources of knowledge base to really start solving solutions. It's awesome.
Yeah. Now I'm going to be, not the devil's advocate, because you're saying a lot of things. I'm just my brain's just spinning because I have said a lot of the same things you have said in maybe a little bit different way or perception. But one of my biggest things is I need people when I'm having deep conversations or I'm trying to connect with someone, either on a personal level or business level or, as a coach, whatever, is I got to ensure that the words we're using, the terminology, you have the same definition as I do, or I need to better understand your definition. So here's my question. What's your definition of soul? Your soul. What's that definition?
So I can tell you that a lot of our conversations we're having, and I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, is that if we have a soul and you're going to be based upon that, which is my belief about me, that I have a soul, not everybody believes they have that connection, but my soul is simply a connection with the universe, with this thing called the Newtonian machine, right? This thing in the physical realm, or my connection to what someone would call God or the universe, or this matrix, or whatever that term is. But Nikola Tesla said it best. If you really want to understand the universe, that's the term we're using, right? Other than God, then you have to understand in terms of vibration, energy, and frequency. Direct quote from Nikola Tesla. If you really want to understand the universe, you have to understand those three elements, because that frequency is what's creating these events in our lives. They're attracting. This is called the attractor factor. And I'm the generator of that. So it's like, wow, if I wanted to be able to manifest things, where am I manifesting things from? Well, what we didn't know until just recently, that neuroscience tells us that 95% of the things we're attracting in our lives is coming from our subconscious part of our brain. We're not even thinking about it. It's like we're breathing. It's like we're blinking our eyes. It's like our heartbeat. It's just simply attracting these things, and it's all based upon our programming. If I can change that programming, Pat, then I can change what I'm attracting into my life. And this is what we've been proving to myself for the last 35 years of doing this through a simple, elegant formula that we teach people to be able to show you, oh my God, there's a connection between you, the universe, and this physical plane about how you can actually create things through congruency, through consistency. And you can do that faster using your soul than you can ever do using your ego.
Yeah. Okay. I'm having a blast here. I appreciate and even agree with a lot of what you're saying, but from a different lens or different point of view, not a point of view, a different perspective. And from the science standpoint, is because I'm kind of a simplistic kind of person, is I know the research is out there that says you on average have 80,000 thoughts a day. Everything begins up here, whether it's conscious, subconscious, whatever you want to call it. The thing that's holding your two ears apart from touching each other is your brain, and that brain is the central beginning of everything in your waking and sleeping time. It's the hard drive, if you will, and you have 80,000 thoughts a day, and the research suggests 50,000 of those thoughts a day are negative. And so it's where you're using congruency and a lot of other things. It's that battle between, and I don't want to say good and evil, but it's the battle, even subconsciously, that you're having with yourself. And when you get into Scripture, the best way to describe that is when Paul says in a letter to whomever, I'm not that detailed on chapter and verses, but he says, why do I do the things I know I shouldn't and don't do the things I know I should? That's that battle between the conscious, the subconscious, the good versus evil, and all that. And there's a scripture that says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength." And people will go, "Okay, you say the word heart, and everybody thinks, oh yeah, right here." That scripturally, that's not what Christ was talking about, or that's not what the greatest commandment. I think it's from Deuteronomy. Your mind, we know, it is that organ up here that you've been gifted with. Your heart is, to me, is that place, that innermost quiet place that you go to make major decisions. Like, I love you with all my heart. That means with everything within my being. That's my heart. That's what my heart is. For me, because people don't, they memorize stuff, but they don't understand what it means, is the soul is everything. Like you said, everybody has a soul, whether you can be an atheist and you still know you have a soul, because a soul is everything that makes you a unique creation by however you got here. There's nobody identical to you, not even in identical twins. There's still something unique with everybody, of everything from personality to looks to strengths to weaknesses to attitudes. Everything that is unique to you, that's your soul. And that, I think, is the spiritual part you're talking about. And I take it from a Christian biblical perspective. Go look at Jeremiah, and there's again, I can't give you a verse and chapter, but it says this. And this is God talking to Jeremiah. "Before you were even formed in your mother's womb, I knew you." And that means I loved you. The word "knew" means love in that context. Before you were ever even conceived in your mother's womb, I knew you and I loved you. And before you were born, I consecrated you for a purpose. And that's what I think that's how your description of it in the metaphysical and quantum arena, that's one sentence that exactly says the same thing, but in different words. And I think when you say you have to connect with your soul because you have those two sources, that means for me, I need to connect with, what did God create me for? And if I stay focused on that, then I don't go down the rabbit holes. I don't pick a career and go into it just because, like I did. I didn't know this when I was, 17, 18, 20 years old. Everybody says, Pat, you're going to be a great lawyer. So I went to law school. That everybody says I'm going to be a great lawyer. So I was barely 21 when I graduated from college, went straight to law school, got married my second year of law school. We're still coming up on 46 years. And me, when I was 28, you talk about 24 by success standards. And by the way, here's my definition of success. Success is somebody else's opinion of your value to them. And so, but you got a law degree. I was a prosecutor. I was arguing cases, and all that. 28 years old, and I'm like, I hate this. I absolutely hate going to work every day. And that's when my wife says, "Well, what do you want to do?" I go, "I've always wanted to be in law enforcement. That was my call. I think that's my consecration by God, was to be that warrior servant leader in the arena of law enforcement." And that's what I did. And I think that's what you're talking about, and how we can become. Paul calls it a race, but how we can become and live the life that God created us for, and it doesn't mean you have to have a gazillion bucks in your bank account. Mother Teresa of Calcutta is probably the most successful person in my lifetime, and has nothing to do with making money. And so that's why I'm taking all these notes and everything. I'm just like, oh my goodness, man! I've been thinking these same things. And
let me see if I can't throw a shovel at this. And no, hell, we're going to go backhoe on this. How's that? We're just dig this thing up.
Okay.
One of the most fascinating discoveries I've made this lifetime, and I've been on this journey a long time, brother. And it sounds very much like you. And I'm sure if we're going to agree with this or not, but so much of my schooling and Sunday school and preachers and rabbis that I've had in my life and all kinds of different, because I had a really unusual upbringing. I was adopted in my family. So
was I.
Oh, well then there we go. Yeah. And law enforcement, profilers, where I was going to go. I thought I was going to be a cop or something like that. Was the protector, right? Kind of stuff. And along this journey, I always believed that I was supposed to go discover who I am. Like, there was a treasure. Like, I was going to lift up a rock and, there's a little note for me. It says, David Olcott is this. And I was like, oh, thank God I found it finally. And that's not how I found that it worked. So to give an interpretation, how I interpreted God's plan for me was that there was already a predestined thing that I had to choose. I had to find, I had to discover. What I found was the truth was that there is a plan, but the plan is already being met. You being here is God's plan. And what I mean by that is every soul that I know about, at least my understanding, is that you've come here for one thing. You've come here to experience that which you say you are. That's God's plan. That's where it ends, though, because having God choose for you that you're going to be in law enforcement or I'm going to be a coach or any of these other things, that could fall into that spectrum of possibilities. But because of free will, I get to choose what vehicle I'm going to choose to express that which I say I am.
Yeah.
So the vehicle is very choice oriented.
Yeah. And one of the greatest examples of that, and again, I'm going to come back to the Bible, that is exactly what you're saying. If you look at who we now know as Paul, the Apostle Paul, was Saul. And what did he think his purpose in life was? And he was gifted. He was a Roman citizen. He was a Pharisee. So he was very learned. And by God, literally in his mind, I'm hunting down these Christians and taking care of business because they're a disgrace, especially if they were Jews converted to what we now call Christianity. And he would hunt them down. until finally, and I never want to have a Saul moment. I do not want God to knock me upside the head and off. It never says he was knocked off a horse, but that's how the story goes. And then blinded for like 3 days. I do not want to piss God off so much that he decides, you know what, I'm going to get his attention because that was not what he was created for. And so he had that literally come to Jesus moment because it was Jesus going, "Why are you persecuting me?" But that's what you're talking about, that soul and that connection and that purpose. In the Lord's Prayer, it says, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." That's the plan. Now, what do we choose is the answer. So, man, this is exciting.
And so let's go back to that just briefly, if you don't mind, is that having this idea that the heart is the connection between the soul, right? And it is. It's when by the way, the word commitment is heart.
Yeah.
I put my heart into something. That's where we have this commitment and congruency we talked about and how the universe rewards this. We also have to consider the dark side of this technology. So I really want to be careful with this, but I really want to be as clear as I can. The universe rewards congruency. This then tells you that if I'm a world-class professional athlete and I sit on that couch over there and I eat Cheetos all day, those two things aren't congruent. Right. There are certain behaviors, doings, that go along with certain beingness. And we see that all the time, these called role distinctions that you were talking about earlier. And so when we violate the actions that do not go along with the role distinction we've taken on, that creates an incongruency, yet it creates consistency. And consistency over time creates congruency. Congruency over time creates coherence. Coherence attracts things to you. So whether you're doing things from a negative intention or a positive intention, as long as those things are consistent, you're going to reap results from them. Mm-hmm. So this answers the Hitler question.
Yeah.
Why was he able to reign for so long? If there is a God, why was he able to get all this collective? Because inside of us exists that dark side that is attracted to that. And that's our overcoming that is, I think, part of our plan, unless it isn't. And that's this free will that we keep going back to.
Yeah.
That just simply says your choice about who you say you are and how you choose to experience that is how you're going to be judged, not only in this physical plane, but also in the next one. And that's an important remembrance that we've forgotten, that when we have this body, we have this heart, we have this brain, we have a mind, we have a soul, which is all connected to spirit. So as those things are chunked down, as you move from spirit into your soul then moves into your body, right, as an avatar. And inside that body is where the brain and the mind connect. But when you leave this body, your mind travels with you. Your brain stays here. But your mind is where all your beliefs are. It's where all your programming is. It's where all your thoughts about meanings and perception, perspective, all contained within the mind, because memory isn't stored in the brain. It's stored in the cloud. And the mind connects to the cloud, which is this etherical realm of memory. Your memories are not stored in your brain. We thought that was true. So when we lost our body, we lost all our memory. This is not accurate. We keep our memories with us. If you have an event that happened in your life and two people have the same event happen, they go to the same movie, why do two different people have two different experiences, two different memories from the same event? Mm-hmm. That's called programming.
Yeah.
Programming determines meanings behind things.
Yeah, and there's so many influences. We had 70 bank robberies in 1 year in Dayton, Ohio.
Wow.
And so I ended up being invited by a private company who had a lot of clients that were banks and said, hey, I want you to come in and train our bank tellers and people what to do and not to do in a bank robbery. And so, and it was only like a 30, 45-minute class, kind of like before they would open for business, I'd come in and have this little team meeting. But I would always have someone standing off to the side that nobody was paying attention to, and then this was pre-orchestrated. I would have them come walk up, like they were, like it's somebody I knew, kind of deal, and hand me something, quietly whisper something, and then leave. And I wouldn't break stride. I'd just I'd keep talking and doing the training for about 5 minutes, and then I would go, okay, I want everybody to take a piece of paper out and write down, what they remember, what they saw and heard about 5 minutes ago. Everybody saw the same thing, but not everybody agreed. Oh, it was the guy was like 5'9" and that, and wearing, and people would get it wrong. And that's the thing about memory, is there are so many influences and impacts. They could have been distracted. They were thinking about their sick kid at home. Whatever. Nowadays they were staring at their stupid phone, and that impacts how they take in information, store it, if you will, and then have to recall it. So great point of how memory is not simply, because people can have brain injuries. I had a traumatic brain injury when I was in second grade, and I literally cannot. I can remember the past, but I can't remember it in pictures. I can't. At the birth of all 5 kids, I was at my wedding 46 years ago. I can't visualize it. I can remember facts and circumstances and events. I just can't picture it. So it's memories. You just have some really good insights and points on that. I'm like, and here's one. Here's what jumped to my mind when you were talking. The perfect example of that. Everybody can experience the same thing, but have a different reaction or response or conclusions, and then based on all that, they take actions. And take the 12 apostles before Good Friday. All saw and heard the same thing. When they were sent out at that one point, when they went out in pairs and they were given the authority to heal people and raise people from the dead, all these gifts and whatnot, all 12 of them had the same gifts, same teacher, same direction, and one of them decides he knows better than God of how to do God's will, and we know him as Judas and how that worked out. And Christ later said better he'd never been born, because he's so, that evil, that dark side in his heart, mind, and soul told him and convinced him he knew better than God, and he knew better than Jesus, and that he was going to change history, not Jesus. So I think that's a good pictorial, factual, historical evidence of what you say about the dark side, and you need to be careful about what's going on up here in your noggin and in your heart and in your soul, because they are all interconnected.
The great metaphor, I believe, between Jesus and the great betrayer, you said it earlier, I dropped his name.
Judas. Yeah.
Goodness. I really believe that's a metaphor for the difference between your soul and your ego. And so from my perspective, I know this is going to sound a little strange, because Christ was very clear about this, man. Jesus was very clear about this. He says, judge not. And so I'm always looking at the Bible from a place of observation as opposed to judgment, or giving too much meaning to something with any kind of passion or any kind of my own stuff in it, if you will. So just really want to observe it without that emotional side. Yeah. So when I take a look at those things, I realize, thank God for Judas. Because without Judas, Christ doesn't become Christ. He has to play his role in that mechanism for Christ to become crucified and to then have that story laid out for us. Without Judas or the ego doing its part, then we would not have seen the contrast of these other things. It would not have played out. And Christ and God knew this from the very beginning. Christ was very clear in his conversations with the rest of the 11 members that one of you will betray me. We knew this. He knew this. And he was so loving that he knew that Judas had to play his part so that Christ could become his part.
Yeah.
So I love the beautifulness of these stories when you take the emotional, good, right, wrong things out of it. Not that they don't belong in there. It's a lot easier for me to understand and swallow than, hearing this other sting that there's this evil and all. Listen, that evil exists in all of us. It's overcoming that darkness. So the verbiage we use here at Samurai Success isn't what's right or wrong or good or evil. It's what works and what doesn't work. And when you take a look at it from that perspective, all of a sudden you realize certain behaviors work for you in certain circumstances and some don't. So what's the right thing to do is what works.
Yeah. Well, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over the same way and expecting a different result. And I think, and this is our motto at the Warrior Servant Leader podcast and in my business. It's even on the back of my challenge coin, and I end every episode with this very 4 points that sums up really everything that we've been talking about, and not and I'm going to disagree with you just a little bit because the word right, the word right is in it, but it's not judgmental, and it's not me telling you what to do. But it's these are the 4 things. This is the culture I expect. What I expect and accept from myself and from people that I work with, work for, all those kinds of things. It's really this simple. Always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. Mm. And if you do the right thing at the wrong time or the wrong way or for the wrong reasons, it's going to blow up in your face. The natural law is it's not going to work. Like you say, is it going to work or doesn't it work? Well, it's not going to work if you don't do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. And that kind of summarizes, for me at least, how I can stay focused in a chaotic world and just kind of ignore all that noise and really, that's just people running their gums. Particularly when it comes to negative stuff. And that helps me stay grounded.
Does that work?
It does, but I still have bad days. I have failures. I think I'm doing the right thing. And usually I am doing the right thing, but I'm not always doing it the right way for the right reasons or, at the right time. But those are, with John Maxwell, his one book, he crossed out the word lose. The phrase is sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And his book is sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Mm. And so I take those things as learning opportunities, not to beat myself up or not to beat somebody else up. Some people, sometimes you got to let people fail, even though you see, you see that train wreck coming. And it's like, okay, I can try and equip you with skills and everything, but you're the one that has to make the decisions. So that's what makes life so interesting, though, and challenging. There's never a boring day.
You just answered the best way to deal with someone else's ego.
Yeah,
just step back. Let them proceed into that place. Stay safe. I mean, especially if they're your kids or your mate or something. Stay close because they're going to need your help. But just back away enough where they can have their own. And here it is. Personal verified experience. A personal verified moment. Because without that, it doesn't change us. You got to touch the hot stove sometimes. You got to have personal
Can
verified.
you repeat that, the very first part of that? Because you broke up just a little bit. That you said you got to be there for your kids and whatnot, but you need to, let them
touch the stove.
Yeah, and
Have a personal verified experience.
there you go. That was the words I didn't. The personal verified experience. Yeah, it's not real until what? That's a big expression. Lived experience, and it is a thing that maybe I have not lived your experience, but I cannot minimize or dismiss your lived experience because it's different than mine, and that takes the ego out of the equation, and we can still agree to disagree on important things, but in a non-judgmental way. And I think that's one of the hardest things, especially for men, to do. And I had a lieutenant that told me, Pat, there's a fine line between leading by example and doing somebody else's job for them. And leading by example, when you don't delegate, that's not leading by example. I'll do it so it's done right. That's not leadership. That's dictatorship. And that you have to be able to check your ego, your self-centeredness at the door, and like you said, be there for people. And as long as it's not life-threatening, you know what? You're going to get the lived experience of failing at this task, and I hope you learn something from it. And then it's over. I'm not going to hold it against you. So that's, man.
One of the great axioms that I fell in love with years and years ago. It's so beautiful. There is no such thing as failure, only feedback. It's such a big part of the philosophy of my life that when I go into, because I'm constantly the last 30 plus years, I've put myself in these learning curves, like learning martial arts, how to race a motorcycle, racing cars, jumping out of airplanes, diving over 800 dives, swimming with great white sharks, learning how to, do martial arts, powerlifting, bodybuilding, long range precision shooting, playing poker. By the way, in our house, playing poker was one of the great sins of all things. So I put myself in these learning curves, Pat, because if I'm out there teaching as a coach that you've got to be able to do a different behavior, you've got to put yourself in the learning curve. Yeah. I better be the one putting myself in the learning curve if I'm asking you to do it. I've started having fun with it because the experiences I'm having with I'm going through all these learning things. I'm learning brand new things. I'm really exploring me in all those different vehicles. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm exploring how David responds and reacts to this. Do I give up? Do I do this to this? Do I persevere? And once I continue to build that trust within me around all those different things, man, I am really centered. So that whenever I go into a situation which is not very well known to me, I still handle it with a lot of elegance and class because I trust me in that process. Even though I don't know the outcome of the situation or how to solve it immediately, I trust me in it. And that's
wow. Well, we're going to close with this because this reminds me of there's a saint. He was made a saint last year in the Catholic Church. 15 years old, died in 2006 of leukemia. Born in France, raised in Milan, Italy. So this is a 15-year-old had this insight that is documented, and he said this. His name's Carlo Acutis.
Is this the video gamer guy?
No. This is a 15-year. Well, he was a kid.
Yeah.
Who was fascinated with the internet, and he did all the miracles associated with the Eucharist around the world. Yep. But he said this that sums up, I think, our whole conversation is we're all born unique. But sadly, many of us die a photocopy of somebody or something else because we don't embrace and believe I am unique, I am gifted, I am here for a purpose, and instead we want to be like Mike, the old Nike commercial. Mm-hmm. We want to be a photocopy of somebody that we go, ooh, they're successful. So I think that and that's coming from a 15-year-old.
Universal truths are universal, though. That's what's the beauty about it, right?
Yeah. Man, David, it has been so fun to have you on the show. What's your contact? What's the website where people can take that free 3-minute diagnostic, look at themselves?
Yes, please do that, because it's an amazing technology that we've spent a lot of time really building to really give you some insights about how to really make change. Because if you've been asking the question, okay, I'm tired of this, I've tolerated this enough, I'm losing my patience, I really want to do something that works, take that assessment. See if it really resonates with you. SamuraiSuccess.com is the best way to reach us. There's all kinds of information there. I think we have close to 300 content videos now on there. So really great information about really some great insightful things that you might want to take a look at, and just get your brain around some of the ways to articulate some of the things you already know. I think it's a really great resource tool that's on there for you.
Awesome. And we didn't even get into, we're going to have you back on another episode. We didn't even get into your book, Swords of Illumination. So I'm going to leave that as the cliffhanger to get you back on the show. But if Swords of Illumination, is that on Amazon? I mean, you get it.
In fact, okay. We just passed 10,000 copies sold. So we're really excited about that mark. And we became an Amazon bestseller in the first 11 hours of sales. So.
Holy cow, man. Is that fiction or?
It's classified as fiction, but I will tell you there's some very profound insights in that book that will really relate to you in a practical way. So it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Oh, man, David, thank you so much for being here today, taking the time and sharing some great insights. And I love these challenging, up here kind of conversation. So kudos to you. You're a great guest. For our listeners, thank you for your loyalty to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. Because of you, we're now in over 70 countries and Hong Kong. And we're coming up. We're going to break 10,000 downloads here in the not too distant future. And that is 100% because of your commitment, your interest in becoming the warrior servant leader you believe God created you to be, and you're sharing our message with people that need to hear the same. So thank you so much. So until next week, as I end every episode, I have already said it, but repetition is the mother of all learning in some arenas, and in this case it is. Always, always, always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons, because that's what warriors, servants, and leaders do every day, every time. Love you all and see you next week.